I like the sentimental things. I'd rather people have empty walls than fill them with garbage, or things that don't really matter, and
Mhm.
or things that they're not super excited about. It's like, well, if you don't love it, why are we showcasing it?
Welcome to Reframe and Reclaim. We are Courtney Huckabee, a psychotherapist
and Jen Harris, an interior designer
who have teamed up to reflect,
challenge,
and reframe your mindset in relationship with your personal belongings.
Join us as we discuss and declutter all of the stuff that keeps us stuck.
Learn to intentionally create environments with improved function and design that cultivate peace of mind. Find the reframe.
Start your reclaim.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reframe and Reclaim. I'm Jen Harris.
And I'm Courtney Huckabee.
And today we have the privilege of speaking with Katy Hoxsey out of Boise, Idaho. And she is an interior designer who has been featured on things like the Show House Showdown. I don't know if you remember that. She's also been featured with Thermador Appliances. They have featured her appliances in her designed kitchens, which is very exciting. So today we're just going to sit down and have a little chit chat about how interior design has influenced her spaces and then the items that go in. So Katy, welcome to Reframe and Reclaim.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you.
So tell us a little bit about your career journey and interior design and what got you into it.
Well, I've always been on a path for interior design. My mother was an artist and quite the homemaker and decorator, and but in a very like wholesome, kind of natural sense. And she had stacks and stacks of Better Homes and Garden magazines and things that
Oh,
she
goodness.
kept. And so that was just always a part of our life. And my favorite aunt was an incredible decorator. She could go to all the thrift stores and things and make it look like $1,000,000, even though it was like collected and stuff. So there's just been some really resourceful people that were really influential in my life. Um, and like my grandparents had a home that they built that was very much in our Swiss heritage. And so they built like a Swiss chalet style home that was just like really unique and thoughtful. So that's just always been kind of a interesting part of like my childhood. And being more of the artist type, I think I was expected to be more of an athlete because I'm really tall, but I was really just more artistic. And my dad is like quite the businessman, and so I was always thinking about what could I do as like a viable career and something I would be passionate about as well. And it was kind of like art and business and interior design just kind of developed from there. And so I studied it at the University of Idaho and have been working in the field for, oh gosh, 19 years. I can't believe it.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I've transitioned, as I grew in my career from like an architecture firm, just like drafting public schools and bathrooms and not exciting and interesting things at all, to then working in a little more specialized firms. And then I had a little stint in sales for some materials, which was really very formative for me for like prospecting and just like personal development and marketing development and things that I really wasn't learning at firms. And then I just started designing kind of freelance. And then I was a partner at Design Vim for 11 years. And then we dissolved last year, and now I'm independent. So, anyway, the career has changed a lot as my location has grown a lot. Like Boise was a very conservative, small city with really great weather and lots of great outdoors, which my family and I love all the access to the outdoors. But it's grown exponentially. It has like exploded, and people from all sorts of places, bigger cities, have come here and relocated. And so it's like the design opportunities have really grown with all this other outside influence, which I love very much.
And I
So
know you've been focusing on residential design. So, as part of your design process with clients, everybody has opinions. It's their home, their space, right? So, what kind of questions do encourage, or how do you encourage your clients to think about their new space to try and reframe their minds as far as what the potential of it and what it could be from what it is now?
yeah. Well, everybody's different, even if
Right.
they're like wanting the same or similar thing. Like
Or
if
even if
there's
they're living in the same house, you
yeah,
know?
right. Well, so it's been really interesting. I always joke that someday when my kids go off to college, I'm gonna go back to school with them and study anthropology because I think
Ah,
people are so interesting.
Yes.
And there's like patterns with how people think of like what type of person they are. And so I find it just really interesting when you really kind of like have the experience of working with many people and many couples and many families and businesses too. I do a lot of commercial work too. Um,
okay.
but residentially, people want it right now. And commercially, it takes a lot of time. And, it's like years of that property coming to fruition. So residentially, when we're talking about like, what do they want? Where do they go? How are we going to do this? How much does it cost? I've really been trying to reformat my vetting process because
Mm,
it is so important to be like a good fit for each other
right.
and to listen to like red flags that maybe are not a great fit for me. Although I have a really hard time saying no to people and I want them to have everything they want. And we can make that possible. But I've just learned that as like the world has become so informed and they have so much access to
Mm,
every design across the world through Pinterest and the internet and travel,
Right.
people are very, very well traveled a lot and have, many of my clients, they've built their own homes, they've moved, they've renovated, they have a lot of experience. But then there's people that have no experience either. And they're like, okay, we're going to try this out. What do we do? And so I've tried to document like a process of like, this is generally how it goes. And like, this is my involvement. This is where I help you. This is where I really want to be there for you. But it's your house, it's your decision, and it's your budget, of course. Like, so it's never just me. And I find like the different styles are very intriguing, and I never want to design like the same thing over and over again. I like all the different styles that people are interested in. Um, so that being said, it's like uh, just going and meeting with them in person is like number one, and just kind of feeling them out. Even if they're moving into somewhere other place from where they live now, I like to see how they live,
mm,
and it's
Sure.
like of no judgment at all. But it's like, okay, are they cluttered? Are they very tidy? Are they minimalist? Are they bursting at the seams?
Mhm.
Um, are they wanting it to be more organized? Are they wanting it to be a little different lifestyle? Or maybe they just have certain activities that they're like, well, I need this particular type of storage for these types of things so I can access them all the time. Or if they're like super into cooking, I design so many kitchens and stuff. So it's like specifically honing in on like the appliances and what they do and how they can work for them because everything's available. So it's kind of a broad question of like, where do
What
we start?
What I'm hearing is you really tailor your work as an interior designer of what each client needs and looking at the individual. The system is looking at what their needs are, how their
Mhm,
home functions, the aesthetic they're looking for. And that's a lot about what we do in Reframe Reclaim. Not saying, it was like what you're doing is what we talk about in Reframe Reclaim, that there's no one way to design a kitchen.
mhm,
There's no one way to have a home for 5 people. And
mhm,
so when you're talking about that, that really resonates with me, being a psychotherapist of you've got to ask the individual you're working with, whether it's in psychotherapy or interior design or our reframe
mhm,
and reclaim processes, what do you want? What do you
mhm,
need? And then this is how I can help you.
mhm. Yeah. And you just some things you just don't know till you're in the middle of it, till you're knee deep and too far in to walk away. Once you're so far in, a lot of things become more discoverable as they get more comfortable with you, and as they learn to open up and things. Because some people don't know what to start with. And
Yes.
they're like, I know I want something else. I know I just don't like what's here. So that is very informative too, of like, well, just being able to tell me yes and no, if you like it or don't, and be like confident in it. Um, and like a lot of times they'll ask if there's rules, like, oh, well,
Nice.
does our kitchen have to work in the
The
triangle?
triangle. Yes.
There's got the stupid triangle. I'm like, it matters of like your specific parameters of like,
Sure.
can we work within this space? I have one beautiful project we recently featured on our Instagram, and it's like a New Zealand style kind of, what's what we call it, New Zealand style. But really, it was an open space, and we just flip flopped where the kitchen was and the dining room was in
Oh.
that area to make it work for them and to work with their windows and things. And so it was like, well, we can swap, or we can make do with what you have, or we can rethink the whole box, or expand it. I try not to expand though, like to the exterior, because it is just so ungodly expensive that, and I'm like, people can live in a tiny home. You can live in your 3,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 square foot house. We can make this work.
Yes.
So there's just things that it's like just so case by case specific to each person, that I try to give a very custom service, and make it work for them and what they're interested in.
Wonderful.
Is there any advice you give, or a way, because I know it's like a fine line, right, of incorporating the client as well as pushing them forward to enhance the design aesthetic? Is there any certain way you help them discover what it is they really want, or be able to push them to elevate that design?
So Pinterest is a fast, quick way to communicate on an example of like a real life example. And like, okay, so whatever the situation is, here's something that looks very similar, or at least gets like kind of the feeling or the function across. And so that's a really fast way to do it. Which sometimes you're in a conversation and you need to like answer it and keep it flowing just to kind of get to the point. Or other times I will do 3D renderings for clients to work with specifically their space and the finishes that we've developed for them and the layout. And so they can see their space. And 3D rendering has become so much more affordable than it used to
Oh,
be.
great.
Yes.
So I feel like I'm able to offer it better now than I did several years ago.
Yeah. And I will say, Jen being the creative and you being a creative, I'm more of the like, science language kind of place. Um, I think that's so wonderful that if we don't know where we want to go, you're helping them reframe and
Mhm.
find the vision for that using your skill sets. And that's a way to communicate, because you might say, like, I see a blue wall here and I see a countertop here that's quartz. And I'm like, but if I see it, then like you said, what do they say? And a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Right.
It really truly is, and it's such an easy way to get like a concept design put together, and be able to like get the feeling across of what you're trying to present. And I have some recent clients we've really, now we're knee deep into working on their designs, but when I first met with them, they knew like more technically what they'd like to do, but style wise, they had no direction. And
Oh,
so I really tried to pay attention to what they had, that they had spent time in acquiring. Like they had bought a new dining table set and that they really liked. And it was a very beautiful style that I thought, okay, I think just based off of like that piece, knowing that that was something that they were really proud of and happy with, that that was going to give us a direction that they maybe are interested in, a little more refined look and not like farmhouse look. Their house could easily go farmhouse, but it was like, now we're past farmhouse. We're going to do something else. And so they had like just a little more elevated interest, a little more refining, a little more contemporary, but still like slightly casual. So that was kind of the style direction that we presented to them, and they really liked it.
And I find too, like starting with those kind of mood boards and getting that direction really helps. And I've used those as well when it comes to bringing things into our home too, right? Because someone could be out and it's like, oh, I found this, I really love it, I want it in my space, and you're like, this is like mid-century modern, and you're wanting this like
Yeah,
elegant look, right? And
yeah,
so being able to have a snapshot of that, either Pinterest or on your phone, and take that with you as a client
yeah,
and be able to say, oh, this would work in my space or this doesn't.
yeah.
I think it helps keep people intentional and what they bring into their home to really reflect what they want.
Yes. It is so interesting because I have some other clients that I worked with them from across the country. They were moving and relocating here, and they had shown me a specific, like Martha Stewart kitchen that was like aqua and charcoal and super fresh and pretty and a little bit traditional. And they're like, we love this kitchen. But then all of their furniture and everything was mid-century, kind of
Mm,
contemporary, a little bit like West Elm kind of look. And we were like, okay, so how do we make this work? How do we make it look intended and like it blends and it's complemented? And so I've started making our own styles for clients. Like it's not just modern or contemporary or transitional or traditional anymore. And then it's not just farmhouse and cottage core and
right.
whatever other thing you can think of. And so we kind of jokingly make up our own styles for clients. And so that one is Martha Modern.
I love
Um,
that.
and it's kind of fun to like tailor
Yes.
a description for a client because sometimes they're like, I mean, I don't know. Or they don't want to be farmhouse, but they do. Like they don't want to call it that, but they are.
Right.
That's what
Yes,
they're
yes,
interested in. And luckily, we're moving away from a lot of farmhouse design because that hit hard
yes,
for a while.
yes.
And it gets a little tiring to kind of do like a similar design because it feels very trendy. And I'd rather do something that is like something that people are interested in for the long haul.
Yes. Yeah, we had a client we were working with in our book, and her style was boho grandma, which
Yes.
was really fun.
And honestly, it actually, we actually went shopping with her and we're like, okay, what's boho? What's grandma? And we just like picked this boho grandma. Is this seems grandma, but is it boho for you? Is this boho, but is it too young?
Yeah.
But putting it together, I think that's what's beautiful about I love hearing interior designs like you, Katie, who say it doesn't have to be traditional this. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to be to the key this, because then it does get to be more of a personalized approach.
Mhm.
And then, something I'm a little curious about is, you say if somebody is like over cluttered or bursting at the seams, our book is very much about our relationship with our stuff, not just the design, but how our space functions and how our space fits in. Have you done any work with helping with creating organizational systems or deciding how things are stored or displayed so that it does improve the client's environment and how they're feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I've done that for myself. I feel like I'm my own case study as well.
We all are. We
Yeah,
all
You're in the book too.
yeah, and it's like, okay, when a space just isn't working for you, no matter how you're wanting it to be, no matter how you try to organize it, it's like, well, what am I gonna do to make it what I want? And I in my own house, we wore out what was already here. And so I was like, well, at least I'm not like ripping out something that someone just did and wasting it, And so I was like, all right, we wore it out. How is it going to work for us? And like our kitchen was like a peninsula style kitchen. And I'm like, this peninsula business doesn't work. It doesn't let my family be in the same space. Although it looks like they would fit, they don't fit. And so I made an island that I jokingly call a Swiss Army knife. And it has features on all sides of it because I needed it to work in my kind of small space. And so it's like there's access and people, my family can stand around it. I don't necessarily care about the entertaining aspect of it, where a lot of my clients are very focused on like being able to entertain and host. And I personally am not focused on it. So it's like, I just need it to work for us. And,
Yeah.
and I'm very tall. So it's like, okay, I can use my height in my space to like put my cabinets all the way to the ceiling. Um, in my own, it's like the ceiling's vaulted and my cabinets vault with the ceiling because I'm like, I'm going to use every inch that I
Yeah, you
can.
can kind of see it in the background
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah. Um, and we're going to do a photo shoot here coming up soon because I'm like, I like things to be personable, and I
Sure.
wouldn't mind showing my family using like my little Swiss Army kitchen and having the pull out trash where everyone can access the trash and not having it under the sink where you're always at the sink and you
Yes.
can never get to the trash. And it's like, I'm going to put it right over here where I can still get to it. It's not like it's too far away, and screw the triangle. So we're just gonna like make it work for what we need. But yes, working with people's specific needs. I had a client who they had 4 daughters, and the parents were shoppers, and they had a lot of stuff. And when I first went to their house, I was like, oh, a pile of girls. Like, I would love to just have a pile of girls. My own daughter was very young at the time. And I'm like, I want a million girls for my own family. And then I went to their house and they had piles of clothes, toys, everything. And they had this big, beautiful home that was like very, very cluttered. And just going through their laundry room area, it was like, do you need maybe 2 washers and dryers? Because they're not
Wow.
gonna stop shopping. They're gonna keep piling it on, and as their kids grow and change and whatever. And so I was like, "How about we stack 2 washers and dryers, 2 pairs, and we keep that production of, what you're wanting to use going, and then
Yes.
we have a big counter where you can fold, a long bar where you can hang, and, like, be able to deal with it rather than having, like, mountains of things everywhere." And so that was kind of a specific one that I'm sure it's still a little cluttered just because, like, it's just how they live. But being
Maybe
able to,
like a
like,
system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
system.
to just, like, create a system. Having 2 washers and 2 dryers takes a lot of space, and it is another extra expense, and so that situation doesn't work for everybody.
Sure, sure.
So, but that's just one example out of a million. So,
Right.
yeah.
And one thing we found, our book is kind of broken into different excuses people tell themselves, whether it's, I might use this one day, and so they hold on to
Mhm.
it, or someone gifted it to me. And one of the things, that I struggle with too, and we came across a lot, was like it's sentimental.
Oh, yeah.
So how
That's
have
my
you been
problem.
able, yeah. So
Yeah.
how have you been able to incorporate a client's like sentimental items, or it's like this really needs to be in the room, and
Yeah.
how do you, highlight those in a way that it functions and is beautiful for them?
I actually prefer to work with people's sentimental stuff because
I got
it
goosebumps.
oh, I'm so glad because my own life is that way. I have sentimental things that were my mother's and that's their like old world. And my husband's family has like specialty old world things that like came from far off places and they have neat stories about it and stuff. And so there's a little bit of heritage for me in it. Um, Other people, like if it's from their travels or from their family or something that they made, like I have other clients who are very crafty and they do really beautiful woodworking.
Wow.
Um, or even if it's like not my preferred style, it's like they care about it.
Mhm.
Um, or big crazy art pieces sometimes, like I had a client who had this huge fossil that I was like,
Wow.
"What? Like, what do we do with this?" And so we like needed to accent the fossil, Um, one client recently, we worked on all of their furniture and pulling it all together. I had designed this home for other people, and then they divorced and moved. And then this other couple moved in, and they've had a big life of travel and sentimental things, but they like modern, and their stuff is not modern. And so I like really searched for style inspiration that pulled together eclectic but still contemporary looks. And so we made all their things work. And I was super proud of it actually. I was like, God, I just made all their weird stuff look so cool, you know, and like bringing in the right rugs. And they had rugs collected from other places, and they had some little end table that was the shape of some building, and like it was just totally round. And then a big ceramic bear, you know, it was like,
Why
what?
not?
What are we doing here? And we had sentimental things from like their mother that was from the 50s, you know, and it was like, okay, let's figure this out and like bring in the texture, and then adding like a little more color to it, I thought helped, layering, and then bringing in the new pieces that, you know, would work better for them that they were excited about.
Right.
So I like the sentimental things. I'd rather people have empty walls than fill them with garbage, you know, or things that don't really matter. And or things that they're not super excited about. It's like, well, if you don't love it, why are we showcasing it? You know? Um,
Yes. And I think we
so
found that so much in our book is like you have this stuff, but is this stuff you want to display, or is there something more important that, like you said, it makes it look cohesive and intentional, and maybe filtering through the things that, like, I just got this at the store. I thought it was cute 2 years ago, or oh, someone so gave it to me, so I just like put it up on a shelf.
Mhm.
I love how you say, what's important to you, your worldly rugs and travels,
Mhm.
your ceramic bear, this huge fossil. How do we accent that and make that an important piece in your home,
Mhm.
and not get lost in all the
Mhm.
other things that may not really mean as much?
Yeah. 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 I have another client right now that they moved into a pretty expansive house, and then they didn't really furnish it, and they've been living there for several years with like it feels empty, you know. And then the one piece of sofa that they did get, their dog chewed on it, so they moved it to another room. It's just been a little bit of an interesting situation where usually people have too much stuff, and these people have kind of nothing, it looks like. So we're working on a full renovation for a totally different house, and really kind of honing it in and seeing what they want to do and how they want it to work and things. And so every once in a while, I have someone who has nothing to work with, and we're like, okay, how do we make that correct for them and function right and be something they love and that they can value for a while too? And so I do try to help them, you know, acquire the things that they can be not maybe sentimental about, but things that will work for them and suit their space.
And you have, separate ends of the spectrum. You have those who have too much stuff, and how do we like really make these things work together? And then, again, the space, it may be just a really, really large space and not enough stuff to make it feel
Mhm.
welcoming, feel cozy, feel peaceful instead, and trying to find that balance and therefore that client, their home, and what they want that feel to be, whether it's,
Yeah.
contemporary or boho grandma
Yeah.
or
Or Martha Modern.
Yeah,
Martha
a little
Modern.
modern. Yeah. Well, and then the other weird spectrum is like, oh, you know, and they're usually people who are a little older who they're like, yeah, I had all that, and I want something totally different because it's just an opportunity in life and we could maybe do that. And it's like, oh, are you sure? And,
So
and we've done it.
when you're working with a client who is doing like a whole home renovation, I mean, that can get really overwhelming. So is there a certain room that you focus on, or how do you navigate them so they can get started?
You know, the clients end up focusing on some space. It's just been interesting. As I mentioned, people have patterns that they will focus on, or like characteristics that I should never be surprised after this, you know, because like one client, we were working on really just refinishing, not reorganizing their whole home, but we were refinishing everything, and new kitchen, living room, playroom, all the stuff. And they were so focused on this one little wine room that it wasn't necessarily getting like all the budget or anything. It wasn't, they explored having like specific refrigeration and like temperature controlled room, but they ended up doing some other things that were more cost effective. But we revisited it many times, and they had a specific art piece that they needed to highlight in that room. And they were more focused on that little room than the whole rest of their house. And although the whole rest of their house turned out lovely and beautiful and they were really happy about it, but it was just like every once in a while, someone will just be really like zoned in on this one special spot. My Martha Modern clients, they have a totally cool kids room that is actually not very big, but it has everything in it. And again, here they had this opportunity and all this space for like the Martha kitchen and the beautiful master suite and all those things. But that little playroom was like they just were so laser focused on the whole thing. We did a 3D rendering of it. We did all these finishes. We did all this stuff. And then even while it was under construction, we had to revisit it again. And it was like, oh my gosh, okay, I think we're good. I promise.
So,
So,
so speaking of kids and playroom, like how do you design those spaces and systems that function? Because we all know all the toys that come in, all the gifts,
There's a lot of movement
so
of
much.
and you still need space to run and play and jump and do all the things. So
Well, I'm in the middle of planning my own kids' playroom because
love
now that
it.
I've designed some really cool playrooms that are like just so out of this world awesome. I'm like, what, my kids can have that, and it doesn't have to be some like huge investment to do it. Um, but they're busy and I want them to remember our home of like, oh yeah, we had monkey bars on the ceiling. And, I want them to remember like we had a special spot for them to just like be, just have so much fun. Although our whole house is taken over, um, and they
ditto. Ditto.
um, so, like the Martha Modern clients, they love reading. And so they wanted this like reading nook. We put reading nooks in like 15 parts of their house, I'm pretty
Love it.
sure. And I was like, do you really have that many books? Like, what are you doing? But anyway, they're so focused on that. And so it was like, okay, this section that used to be a closet became a loft and a playhouse. And so it's like, oh, they have this cozy reading spot, and there were like little shelves to hold the books. And then there were more shelves for more books. And they really wanted they love the nugget sofa. So because they were like, oh, we do watch movies. We love watching movies together too. And but we want them to play and jump. So it was like the nugget sofa was like a perfect spot for having the climbing wall and the climbing rope, but then lounging to watch like whatever fun movie. So it's really just need based is where it starts. And then how do we make it special and fun?
Yeah,
Love
I
it.
love that.
Yes.
And again, hearing again how different clients will focus on different areas, like whether it's the reading nook or it's the playroom or it's the wine room or whatever that is. And that just goes back to the psychology of, really making sure that we're putting intentionality into those spaces that are super important. And, if they really love reading, how that, is
Yeah.
shown in their space, or if the wine is really important, their collection of wine or having their wine preserved. I love
Mhm.
that you as an interior designer, not just making things pretty, but making things purposeful and intentional and really letting the client's expression of their lifestyle be seen. And so I
Mhm.
think it's so beautiful.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And
Well,
that's
it's fun. I'll have to send you guys pictures of when my playroom is dealt with.
I know. I'm like, I need to go home and do my like my
I
kids
know.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not ready for that. I just redid my kitchen little dining nook for a playroom, and I'm like, okay, he has enough space. He has
Yeah.
his room and that room. I need a little bit of space for me, but
Yeah.
we really appreciate you talking with us,
Yes.
Katie. I think we have one more
Yes,
question.
to wrap up. So one of the things as like me personally, as I was like reframing my space and looking at everything, I kind of had to ask myself, like, if a home emergency happened, what would I grab? So for you, you have your family safe, your furry family safe, you have all your important documents. What is the one item in your home you would grab if there was a home emergency that you would save?
Oh, I've thought about that so much. Because I am sentimental, I have some things stored, and I need to think about that clearer because I have my family photo albums from when my childhood. My mother passed away a long time ago, and my dad is remarried, and they were like, take all these photo albums, please. So it's like, okay, though none of that is digitized, and maybe I should do that, because if ever something happened, they're in a weird spot and I'm not going to be able to carry like 40 photo albums, you know? And so it's kind of thinking about like, oh, what if? And what do you do? Where do you go? But probably my children's artwork is maybe more important to me than my childhood stuff, because my kids will never know who that was in that photo album, you know, or anything like that. So it's not like they're, you know, have the family tree recognized at this point. So I would probably like, I'm artsy and artistic, and I do art projects and things with my kids, and I've been saving their art into, well, my daughter was sent home with like a really cute pizza box where they drew their faces on it, and it
I
had
love that.
it was so cute. And because I was like, how do you store your kids' art? You know, like it just was a bit of an overwhelming situation of like, how do I archive these of some sort? And so they came home with a pizza box that was their kindergarten portfolio. And
Love it.
so I was like, oh my gosh, it's a small size, it's
Yeah.
compact, it fits a lot, and it has like this cute little thing. So I got a bunch of pizza boxes, of course, not used. And
That's
then
good.
I've like organized their art, you know, over the years or whatever, and then
Love
like wrote
that.
that's gonna probably pare down over time, you know, as like things get
Yes.
more, because like, are they gonna want their kindergarten art that's like taking up a shelf?
Right. Right.
Um, but that's just something that I think I would grab at this point, because every little thing my kids do is like the most sentimental
Of
thing that I love and
course.
cherish.
Well, another thing is with you redoing the playroom, you can easily incorporate that artwork into the new space, you know, where it
Yeah.
can be seen every day and enjoyed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing, and that you're trying to share this, you know, thing that everybody experiences in their life, every
Yeah.
single person.
Yeah.
So
And so we want to thank you again. And if you haven't heard yet, we are Reframe and Reclaim, a 7-step guide to reframe your relationship with your belongings and reclaim your space. And if you have the means and resources, get a professional organizer, get a professional interior designer, help them help you. And we want to make sure when you start your process, you have a starting place. So this is what that is.
and so Katie, for those that are inspired and want to work with you, want to follow you, where can they find you at?
you can find me at Katy Co Design on Instagram, or Katy Company online, and that's Katy.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again. And we can't wait to see some of your stuff as well. We'll be following you and looking at some of that. And hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Katie. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks so much for listening today. Please like and subscribe and share your comments below if you've enjoyed our episode.
Please leave us information, comments, feedback, or anything that you're working on in your personal space. We'd love to hear how your reframe and reclaim process is going for you.